Welcome back to Joint Adventure. I'm Romana Maiori.
And I'm Dario Ponissi. 9th lesson, and we're doing great.
Good to know. What's today's menu?
Oh, a quite tasty one. Today we'll talk about scales, getting acquainted with a very special one.
Great. What else?
We'll also continue our exploration of the minor chords, plus a few other things that you might find interesting.
All of this in a moment.
Well, in the previous lesson, we arrived to the 5th fret of the fretboard. This is a very important position because, in a way, it divides the first section of the fretboard from the second section and from the third one. What am I talking about? I'm saying that basically the guitar is built in a way that you can divide the fretboard in 3 parts, especially in the classical guitar. But today I'm using a folk guitar, a flat top guitar. So it changes a little bit. But basically, I wanted to notice this. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th fret. This is the first area, the first section of the fretboard, where we find the open chords, for instance, the open chord of A, D, E, and so on. We spoke about open chords in one of the lessons that preceded this one. If you apply a bit of logic, basically, which we do a lot in music, if you move from the 5th fret, 6th, 7th, and 8th, you will find the second section of the fretboard. By the way, when you reach the 8th fret, you will realize that little by little the frets become smaller. It's a question of acoustics, so the guitar is built in a logical way that allows you to play the right notes. So when you reach the 8th fret, you will have covered the second area of the fretboard. So today, I wanted to start in this way to let you understand that the guitar is not something that is built at random. It's something that allows you to progress constantly, logically, through the many things that are important to learn. So right now we have limited ourselves to the first area of the fretboard. So little by little we'll move to the other areas. So all this to remind you all the notes on the first 5 frets of the guitar, which we're gonna see right now. So we start from the open chord, the open string, sorry. I say chord because in Italian string is corda, just in case you wanted to know. So sometimes my mind goes in that direction. So the first fret on the 6th string, which is the string of E, will be an F. Then we'll move to the 2nd fret where we find an F sharp. Then the 3rd fret will be a G, followed by a G sharp. Okay, if I had to go to the 5th fret, of course there would be an A. But I find the same note on the string right below. Okay, it's the same note basically. So it's the string of A. So right now we did 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I moved to the open string of A, where I repeat the same process, which is pressing on the 1st fret, where I find an A sharp, then B, then C, followed by C sharp. Same thing applies here. If I go to the 5th fret, I find the note of D, which is also the open string, the 4th open string of D. So right here, I move to the 4th string, D, D sharp. What's this? E, very good. F, F sharp. Then same thing, instead of going to the 5th fret where I find the G note, I will go to the open string of G, the 3rd string. I continue, G sharp, A sharp, and the next note is B. Okay, so we know that the 2nd string of the guitar is a B, so just for the 3rd string, I only need to go 1, 2, 3. 3 frets. Then I move to the second string. Okay, so we'll have on the first fret C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and then finally the open string of E, where I can repeat the whole process and going to F, F sharp, G, G sharp, and when I move to the 5th fret, I use my forefinger, because if I had to continue, I would go to the second part of the fretboard. Is this all clear? Yes? You can, of course, go back to the beginning of the explanation and listen to it again in case something wasn't that clear. So we did all this, and we learned all the notes on the first 5 frets of the fretboard. This gives us also the opportunity to start talking about scales. Okay. What's a scale? You probably already know, but anyway, I'm going to try to explain in a very easy way. A scale is like a ladder. You go up, you go down. Every rung of the ladder has a note. So you can start from any note you like, from C, from A, from B, whatever you want. And on each rung you find a particular note. What we did right now is, how can I say, like the first scale that you might learn. And it's the easiest one, because you don't have to think where to put the fingers, because they're all in succession. It's a series of sounds in succession, as you noticed while we were doing this exercise. So this particular scale, in which you follow every half a tone, and so on, is called a chromatic scale. Okay, chromatic comes from Italian, which comes from Latin, which comes from Greek, and so on. Chromatico or chromatica. The meaning is related to colors, which you of course already know, but also tones. The idea of the tone of a color, and that's why probably it's being used in music. It's got different colors. Every single step has a different color. The chromatic scale has also a different name. It's also called 12 tones scale, because basically it includes the 7 natural notes and the 5 dynamic accidents, sharps and flats. So basically what we do today is to study together this chromatic scale, trying to understand also what kind of exercise we can do in order to practice it in a logical and also fun way. So what I urge you to do is to take your pick, the way that we studied some lessons ago, and do this kind of movement: down and up, down and up, down and up. For each note you go down, up, down, up. So in other words, you start with the open string of E, then follow F going up, then down, F sharp, then G, then G sharp, then you pass to the 5th string, always doing this movement down, up, down, up, down, up. So remember the 3rd fret for the 3rd string, and then you pass to the 2nd string. Okay. So this covers more or less 30 notes. So it's important that you do this kind of movement, because later on, when we will try to do some little solos, this movement will help you to go faster and also to have more precision on hitting the strings. Okay, so the chromatic scale helps us to understand better the usage of the frets in a way, and also the usage of the picks, as I said. Okay, so in a way, we're starting to understand that there are many things that you can study in guitar. For instance, the chromatic scale, being a scale that contains all the 12 tones, all the 12 notes of music, basically, can be used on any kind of chord. If I have a chord progression of, for instance, D and C, something like this. On this, if I wanted to play a solo, of course I can use the scale of D and a scale of C and also many other things. But if I use the chromatic scale in a creative way, something like this. You can see that basically it fits in a way. Chromatic scales are used in many kinds of music, in classical music, in jazz music, in blues, in rock, any expression of the music in contemporary world or in the history of music contains also the chromatic scale. The 12-tone scale, we spoke about this, which is the same thing. There are systems that go back to the beginning of the 20th century of 12-tone composition. We're talking about composers like Schoenberg and Strauss and people like that. So there is being research also in that direction, how to use all the 12 tones together without giving a preference to any particular tone. It's a world very, very wide, and today we only scratched the surface. The chromatic scale can be a very strong tool, something that you can use creatively, and how can I say, with the usage of your imagination, something that can allow you also to play freely in the beginning. If you have a friend or somebody that plays with you, you can try this. You can tell him, okay, do a chord of A and a chord of E, and then you start just playing. What I want you to think is that, at least in the beginning, there are no strict rules that I want you to follow, because music should be something that gives you joy, that gives you satisfaction in a way. So that if I give you some tools on which you want to work, of course follow the rules of building a chord or following a certain kind of strumming technique or arpeggio or something like that. But the important thing is that you in the beginning have fun, because if we start with sufferance, we're finished. We cannot do music suffering. Although many people will tell you that great artists became so great because they suffered. Yes, it's a different story. But in the beginning, when you learn an instrument, you shouldn't be suffering. You should be having fun. So if you find the possibility to to play in both ways, playing as in a game, of course I urge you to take it and have fun with it. So let's try once again this chromatic scale. I'll do it a bit slower, and you can follow. Maybe we can play it together. Okay, so we start from the 6th string. Here we go. Open string of A, open string of D, open string of G, careful here, open string of B, open string of E, and we go, okay, to reach the 5th fret. That was also the target of the beginning of this lesson. And basically that's it. Just try to have fun in what you're doing, as I was saying before, and practice constantly this part, the chromatic scale, with your left hand, but also the right hand. Right hand is very important. So try this up and down motion of your pick. We'll start with the open string of E, the 6th string, and place one finger on each fret in succession. But instead of going to the 5th fret, we'll play the 5th open string.
Except for the 3rd string.
On 3rd string, you only need to go until 3rd fret. Because the 4th fret is equal to the open 2nd string. Stay tuned for the second part of our lesson, which will talk about minor chords.